Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Today, our group will present in this video entitled of 10 Best Habits of Highly Effective Islamic Leaders and analysis based on Islamic teachings and empirical evidence. The main issues in this present is corruption in leadership and organization. The study identifies corruption as the main ethical problem because leaders expect to act fairly, honestly, and responsibly. Instead, some leaders misuse their authority for personal benefit through bribery, fraud, and abuse of power. This issue is significant because corruption does not only affect leaders themselves, but also harms employees, organizations, and society as a whole. Furthermore, corruption often leads to the loss of confidence among employees and stakeholders. When leaders fail to demonstrate integrity, followers may become less motivated and organizational culture may become unhealthy. In the long term, corruption can damage the reputation of institutions and hinder social and economic development. Therefore, ethical leadership is essential to ensure sustainable growth and public confidence. Understanding the causes and solutions to corruption is essential in developing ethical and effective leaders.
Now, I will explain about the background and causes of the issues. Firstly, according to the study, corruption has existed for many years and continues to occur globally, including in Malaysia. The first cause is the existence of opportunities. Weak monetary system and poor internal controls create opportunities for leaders to misuse their power. When there are opportunities, they can use their power for their own benefits. So the second cause is a lack of integrity. Leaders who lack honesty and moral values may prioritize personal interests over public responsibility, which means leaders who value more about their own self or about their own benefit may misuse their power for their own interests instead of society responsibilities. So the third cause is weak religious and moral education. Without strong faith and ethical awareness, individuals may be more vulnerable to corruption and unethical behavior, which means leaders or a person who have lack religious and moral education in themselves will more tend to do the thing that was prohibited in Islam, for example, as corruptions. They will do corruption as it was nothing wrong in our religion, because they think there are no bad causes or there are no consequences for their behavior. From our analysis, these causes show that corruption is not merely a legal issue, it is also a moral and leadership crisis. In addition, corruption creates negative consequences such as financial losses, reduced productivity, and decline in public confidence towards institutions. From an Islamic perspective, corruption contradicts the values of amanah and justice, which are fundamental principles of leadership, which mean amanah and justice is the main element in our leadership, Islamic leadership. Even when strict rules exist, corruption can still happen if leaders do not possess strong integrity and accountability. Therefore, ethical values must be strengthened alongside organizational regulations. Preventing corruption requires not only strict laws but also the development of strong moral character among leaders. And that's all for me. Thank you.
So let's move to the understanding the issue and solutions. Okay, this study highlights that leadership in Islam is not simply a position of authority. Instead, it is an amanah or trust from Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. Islam teaches that leaders are accountable not only to society but also to Allah for every decision they make. This understanding is important because many modern organizations focus heavily on performance and profit while neglecting moral responsibility. As a result, some leaders may achieve organizational goals but fail to uphold ethical values. To address this issue, organizations should integrate integrity and ethics into their evaluation system. Leaders should be assessed not only based on performance outcomes, but also on honesty, responsibility, and fairness. Besides that, organizations also should provide continuous ethics training and leadership development programs to strengthen moral awareness among leaders and employees. Islamic values such as taqwa, sincerity, and accountability should be incorporated into organizational practices. Through this effort, leaders will be more conscious of their responsibilities and less likely to engage in unethical behavior. From our analysis, combining professional competence with Islamic values can create a healthier and more ethical organizational culture.
Next, I will explain the theories and research findings related to this study. This study is supported by 3 leadership theories. The first is Islamic leadership theory. This theory explains that leadership should have values such as amanah, justice, responsibility, and accountability to Allah Subhanahu wa Ta'ala. In Islam, leadership is not just about having power, but also carrying out trust properly. The second is transformational leadership theory. This theory focuses on leaders who can inspire others, encourage positive change, and become a good example to their followers. The third is servant leadership theory. This theory teaches that the leaders should prioritize helping others and serving instead of focusing on leaders. Based on this study, corruption often happens because of weak integrity and lack of responsibility. Research also shows that ethical leaders can reduce corruption by creating a culture of honesty, fairness, and transparency in organization. In addition, employees usually feel motivated and trust leaders who execute honesty and fairly. From our analysis, these findings shows that being an effective leader is not only about achieving goals, but also about having good values and maintaining public trust. Therefore, combining leadership skills with Islamic values can help create better and more ethical organizations. Thank you.
Based on Islamic teachings, research findings, the study identifies 10 best habits of highly effective Islamic leaders. These habits are trustworthiness or amanah, honesty, responsibility, knowledge, patience, humility, being a good role model, compassion, courage in upholding the truth, and justice. These qualities help leaders make ethical decisions and prevent corruption and abuse of power. From our analysis, these habits are highly relevant in today's leadership environment because they address both professional and moral dimensions of leadership. In addition, these habits are not only beneficial for leaders in government institutions but are also applicable in business, organizations, educational institutions, and community leadership. By cultivating these qualities, leaders can inspire positive behavior among followers and create an environment based on trust and mutual respect. Ultimately, ethical leadership contributes to sustainable development and the well-being of society. In conclusion, corruption remains one of the biggest challenges in modern leadership. However, Islamic leadership provides a comprehensive solution by emphasizing accountability, integrity, justice, and responsibility. By practicing these 10 habits, leaders can build trustworthy and good organization and contribute to a more ethical and corruption-free society. Thank you for your attention. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.